records show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The time is now 6 o'clock. Roll call.
All board members are present.
Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Dr. Gibson, welcome and overview.
Okay, welcome, and the overview is a continuation of the last meeting. We're starting back in with the expenditure projection plan, and then I'm going to do at the end of this just a quick check with the board and see if they need any additional information as we move into the spring semester. And we're anticipating about an hour tonight, and depending on we can stay longer, but I think we've got that much information plus question and answer. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Mr. Bruce.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. As you may recall, or if you have the packet in front of you from the, I believe, November 6th board workshop, we started with the philosophy and strategy. So I just wanted to kind of review overall, and then we can answer and pause as needed. But on the front, on page 1 of the philosophy and strategies page, the overarching philosophy, just to paraphrase, it is a financial, the EPP is a financial planning document of future district expenditures that are not captured in the actual budgetary process. They are primarily related to district equipment that have reached or will, by the year noted, end of useful life in the areas of technology, maintenance, transportation, athletics, and fine arts. Some examples are listed there: the computers, roofing, stadium, tracks, and turf replacements, fleet vehicles, band instruments, other district equipment. So on the planning side, it is a long-term plan, a forecasting model, but also inside that now, we also discussed at the last meeting, just as a review, the 2 strategies for the EPP moving forward. Strategy 1, looking at the current year budget and reviewing as we are going through the current year in December, and kind of getting a first-hand glance of seeing where we are budget-wise and if there's any realization of savings that are potentially out there, and then looking again in January, February, and then also in March. The second, I'm going to blend these real quick. The second strategy is the strategy we've done in the past, and that is close the budget, put the realized savings, if there are realized savings at the end of the budget year, into fund balance, and then come to the board in August and September about a budget amendment to move forward. So the reason I bring these 2 strategies back up is strategy 1, with the review in the months as noted in December, January, February, and March, would, if we see realized savings and we are fairly confident with that, we would come to follow our procurement processes, but it allows for the timely delivery of some of the items on the EPP, which we could take care of in that budget year. Delivery is a big timely, basically, concern that we have. We can't do long lead items in the short turnaround. So if we were to wait till, say, May and say, okay, let's go ahead and do a long lead time project, for instance, like a track replacement or a turf replacement or something else that would take multiple months, we couldn't do that within the timelines of being done by August 31st. So what we would do is try to do strategy 1 being the quick and efficient model and take care of some of the things there. Strategy 2 being coming back, if it's a long lead item, coming to the board, doing it through there. Now, both strategies still would involve the procurement process through Mr. Rivera and purchasing, as well as through the EPP team. So strategy 1 also in using that would be through the team, the EPP team, and then brought forth to district leadership, the ELT and Dr. Gibson, and then cycled through and then been made aware by the board as well going forward. So each part of this, there would be the communication aspect through both parts, and no rhyme or reason are we trying to shortchange communication. So philosophy and strategies, that's just a quick update of what we talked about last time as well. And then I believe you also have on the following pages by departments, the foundation statements for technology on page 2, for maintenance and facilities on page 3, for transportation on page 4, and I believe fine arts on page 5. I might have missed one. Athletics is also on page 4 at the bottom, sorry. So the foundation statements, and we kind of touched on that as well. And then I believe we finished up with just page 6 is the actual years, the high level of the EPP plan. So it shows by year there, and I call the attention to the first column, starting on the left, the 2018-2019. You'll see the 1.650 allocation on the maintenance and facility side. That was the budget amendment approved by the board earlier this year for the roofing, the access control, and the interior and exterior finishes. So what is shaded to the right is current year, but as you recall, the total for the EPP in that first year of 2018-2019 was over $6 million. So the balance is in that rose column that's to the right. So what the idea there then is to show, okay, if that gets moved down the line, we're now moving the 5.5 million, and it's gonna run into the 5.8. So next year, we're looking at about $11 million in needs on the EPP planning there for just the next 2019-2020 school year. And then you can see throughout the remaining years at the bottom, the totals, and then by departments and on those swim lanes, so to speak. We'll call them the swim lanes there. So I could pause there. So philosophy, strategy, statements, and then the overall. So I can stop there if there's any questions there. Okay. So then if you turn to page 7, and I do not believe we went, yes, is that, am I on the same one?
Yeah.
It's the whole out.
Okay. Sorry.
Sorry.
So then on the fold out, you'll see, the breakdown by department with lanes within the overarching department lane there. So you have the technology lane at the top, and then I'm just going down on the major columns or the lanes there, the maintenance and facilities, transportation, athletics, and fine arts. And again, that first column shows the $1.6 million allocated by the budget amendment. And then in the prioritization, you see priority 1, 2, and 3, red, yellow, green. So that takes the breakdown of what was, I'm gonna use the word deferred in the rows column here, and it's broken down by department for each department then as far as priority 1, 2, and 3. So as funds may be available, say for instance through strategy 1, we would then look at and see, okay, what is priority by department? And then the EPP team made up of the directors, Dr. Gibson, Paige Maloney, Dr. Edwards, myself, would then discuss this and then work out depending on the amount of funds there. So that's the method, so to speak, of moving forward with that. So you can see there that the broken out deferred cost there again in the red, yellow, green for that year. So deferred total is 5.5, but as you can see in priority 1, there's $1.8 million, priority 2, 2.3, and then in priority 3, 1.3. This has not been broken out after just yet, so it's only in that 18, 19, and then you have the following years shown there on the plan. So I'm gonna stop right
So
there.
if there's a determination that there's not enough to, we're not gonna do the 5.5, then you've got them prioritized.
Yes.
As high, mid,
Yes,
less
sir.
than mid.
Yeah, with the team, and for instance, if it comes out that there's $1 million available, well, we would start in the column, priority 1, the red column, and look there. And then we'd have that discussion as the team and work through there to see where those funds would go allocated, and then to determine if that is appropriate at that time. Now, this is what we know at this time. It is a plan. It is a living document, much like the facility master plan. Something could happen that we don't know just yet, but this is what the best information that we have at this time.
So on priority 3 and priority 2, if those weren't done, they don't go away, they push to the right.
Yes,
or aggregated with the 5A. Because you, in essence, you've already dropped the things off of this whole chart that are nice to have as opposed to need to have. Is that?
Yes.
That's been a part of
It's
what
been
y'all been
scrubbed
doing?
and pushed.
It's
Yes,
been
sir.
scrubbed, okay.
So, for instance, and I'm just gonna use it as an example on the strategy 1 with the budget, looking at the budget and forecasting, say for instance, we could take care of program equipment for athletics and fine arts to the tune of $100,000, where there's 62,000 and 40,000, we could just we can go forward, move and do that. Or we could choose to, no, let's build it up and let's see if that 100,000 can grow to more and see if it can handle some other needs. So it's not okay, we have 50 bucks, let's go spend it. We're gonna be very methodical and very careful with this as well as be good stewards of the finances of the district. Any questions onto that?
Just a quick question on the transportation, the vehicles, do we not have any, I mean, I would just assume that that's just an ongoing cost, just because buses are always needing maintenance. How is that zero?
What we've done as far as on the vehicles there, we did quite a few bus purchases over the past 2 bonds, the 13 bond and 16 bond. And in the projections there, we feel that these, as well as on the white fleet, you'll see that it comes up into 19. There's some parts in there as well, but as far as buses, we're very confident that we're okay there.
Okay.
Until the next bond, which could land us in about 2020, 2021, whatever the next bond is. That would be on there as well. So, Mr. Perez has, for the most part, left off major bus purchases off of the EPP because our strategy as a district is to use that through bond funds.
So I thought about this until now, so if, we're monitoring growth, and if we maintain it to low growth, as we stated the other day at some meeting, I can't remember, we're not going to call the bond when we said it was going to be unless the student numbers at that time are right for that. So if we move that bond up, again, I'm not saying we're going to, but if the numbers weren't there and we moved it off, I didn't think about what transportation, yeah. 'Cause now, yeah, the buses, so there's a little bit of a complication in there with technology and transportation because we try to pick up infrastructure and new buses in these bond elections.
Okay.
Thank you. Any others? Okay, so then, having that fold out then, I believe changing pages, then you'll see the breakouts, as we affectionately call these the one-pagers. So the first one-pager being technology, and this is a breakdown of what, now it's more than just a number, it kind of blows it out to what it is and where. And those are the pages that follow as well. So we have technology, maintenance, transportation, athletics, and fine arts that follows as well. So that's kind of where we wanted to go and present this to show the plan of the EPP as well as on the strategy and the philosophy of going forth and moving forward. Now I'll open it up to where for questions or concerns or anything to that matter.
So this gives a little more description of the numbers on the fold-out chart.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Instead of, like on the fold out, we'll just go on the top line, instruction on technology, $877,000. Now when you go to the one pager, it's to replace the student devices, it has the location, and some rationale there.
So I have questions. So when I look at technology, I really look at that first one on that statement 1, back to the philosophy. It's instructional and it's also devices for professional office staff. And when I think of devices for the kids, I think of that as instructional materials, honestly. In the old days, it was a chalkboard and a slate or a whiteboard, you know, we just gotten progressively, so to me so one question is, we don't have instructional materials anywhere in there, because we're picking that only up in the budget, is that correct?
No, so we've really tried to work of differentiating instructional materials to not be confused with the instructional materials allotment in the textbooks.
Right,
So
I
we're
know.
calling them
Mhm.
classroom resources. We had that conversation just today, so nobody's confused on that. So the classroom resources, I think, is what you're referring to. So as we've built and modified our curriculum based upon the audit, last year we did ELA and math, with ELA being a new adoption for us this year. So there's some changes. This year we're working on science, social studies, CTE, fine arts, all of those other things. And so we're preparing that basic book type format to then go back and say, based on the critical content we've identified and the focus planning guides, now we start building what it would be. We have a placeholder in there to now, once we have been able to kind of identify that a little bit more through that process, now we have a placeholder and a spot in there where we can plug that number in. It's coming. We're going to do a very broad ballpark number. We're planning on doing that, coming back and embedding that in the EPP right around the first of the year. It's going to be very rough as we continue to modify and identify what we're going to need for classroom resources in every classroom throughout the district based upon the content we've been identified, the focus planning guides that we developed. The new adoptions are going to play a part of that. So it's kind of like hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. But we're going to put a placeholder in there.
Because I know we don't get everything we need, you know, I just know instructional materials on it. So when
So it'll go, I'm sorry, Mr. President, so it will say classroom
So it's gonna be another one.
resources. So yeah, it'll be another.
It'll be instruction, classroom resources, and then it'll
Because I
be
know
just
a
like
long
this. with
time ago,
red.
we had even had staff on there, Linda, when we were gonna open new campuses, and that got taken out, because
Yeah.
those really weren't one-time.
Yeah, and it got confusing. And we
Yeah.
know those reoccurring costs there, and we can
Right,
always
but
predict.
instructional materials could be just a one-time cost,
That's
because you get it
correct.
for the classroom and then you're done.
That's correct.
It can be, and we had, in fact, we were having that conversation just today about it. It could be, but then as you add classrooms, as we grow, then we would also have to factor in, where's that gonna come out from growth? So,
So the five could go up. Okay. And it probably won't be finalized until, well, the 5.5 or the 5.8 could go up.
yeah.
Or the
And-
next.
And again, with us still identifying, so it may not for next year, it may to some degree, we may see different sums each year, just like in this process, because we have been able to identify that and put that basic book together. We're having to factor in the ELA adoption this year. That's a huge adoption, so that's gonna change. So we really haven't been able to do that with ELA. So it'll be kind of an ebb and flow process and a flexible process for us. But we have plans for it, yes.
So my second question, because when I look at that priority one of the total, so if you're looking at the big picture, I did the math, because we don't know the math, on that priority one, so those student devices are really 47% of that total, about 47 of the 1.859 million, that 800, almost $900,000 for priority one. So, and that's only going to one campus. And so I guess my question is too is, bottom, I know a piece of paper might say they need to be replaced, but bottom up, was there specific staff members at Clemens, staff and admin, and on the decision-making, because that's a lot of devices. And another concern I have is the bandwidth and Wi-Fi at Clemens. We all know I have a student there and I know what it's like. And so I'm thinking, even if we bought these devices, would that bandwidth even be able to hold all that there and the Wi-Fi?
That was something that so being very honest, I take a lot of, I knew we were gonna talk about some of this stuff today, so I always go to my carpool, okay, 5:30 a.m., I've got a carpool full of boys. And I started asking them, I'm like, hey, my sons tell me, I have one boy who says he uses technology in every class, so I think we're doing a fantastic job. Ms. Coolbaugh and I think Caleb do a great job with getting the teachers, how to use it, stuff like that. But one of the things that they say to me is, if we all in class get online, the Wi-Fi gets really I mean, those aren't the words they used, but, they do say the Wi-Fi gets really slow. And I know like one of my kids is like, we have a hall where there's no, I can't even use my phone. And so I think when we look at purchasing devices, I think one of my concerns is if you can't use it in certain areas or the kids don't want to use it because, I mean, is that infrastructure? I mean, is that going to be in here too? I think that's what I'm asking. Like, or is that just a problem that Clemens is going to have?
No, the expectation is that's not just a problem that Clemens is gonna have. I know we've continued to work with them, several visits over this last month of identifying are there dead spots, slow spots, whatever those may be. Caleb,
Our
Andy,
network staff,
you,
yes.
network staff has been over there trying to identify those. Some of them may be, situations with what we're doing with some of the construction and things like that, but we're continually working to try to address those needs. And I think we have seen some increased capacity based on either new spots put in or whatever that may be. So do you want to talk about that?
Adjusting, we've actually consulted with, we have Cisco access points, and we've consulted with them, and we know that there's different frequencies, and so we're going to be turning off. There's one that interferes with another. So we're looking at the places where we can actually turn that off or down, so there's no interference. Our bandwidth, as far as bandwidth goes, we've got plenty of that. We've got two 10 gigabyte lines in our district, so bandwidth is good. It's the access points that we're monitoring, and so in fact, are working on a plan now to have the network staff walk those campuses weekly to go check.
Ms. Trasbeck, one of the questions, and I'm not saying it may not necessarily apply to your kid, but one of the things to your child, but one of the things we found as well is that some of the students won't be able to access it. They say no, they're not able to access the internet, but they're using their own, instead of
Data.
on the school's Wi-Fi,
Yes.
they're using their own data, and there are probably places in many of our buildings that
Oh, yeah, it's not just there.
we can't get to our, but if they connect to the school Wi-Fi that they have access to, it's a different position. So some of it may be choice, some of it may be education to make sure that they understand how to get there and what they can do, and some of it's just choice. I don't want to go to school for whatever reason that may be.
So my first question was just, that's a lot of money. I mean, when I look at when you look at the fund balance, I mean, that's about $900,000 that would probably be coming from the fund balance for the student devices. So I just want to make sure that the ground level is, have they been in on the decision making at the Clemens staff, teachers, no matter what campus it is, be it Clemens, Steele, the junior highs, wherever, because I mean, it's just a lot of money.
I think that's a good concern too, just because that was in one of the roundings, that was something that was brought up.
And I can tell you, we followed this process at Steele last year, and all of those entities were involved in that process because basically what we asked them, and Dr. Brooke, jump in here if I misspeak or don't say enough about it, is we wanted them to have some ownership in. We want the device to fit your needs, not we're just going to go with blanket devices since they make it work. And so we purchased a multitude of different devices based upon some of the things they shared with us. And there were some misconceptions, as we've found out over the in visiting campuses and doing some roundings and things like that, where hard labs might have gone away, but they were replaced with the same or more, in some instances, carts or cows, if you will. So it looks as if it went away, but it really didn't. And I think all of our research will show us we're moving more and more towards the flexibility of not having necessarily so many labs or so many computers because they sit in a room, but having the flexibility of moving in and out of those places where needed. That takes some adjustment, that takes some change first, and sort of second order change for some folks. But they do have opportunities to consult, and we do seek that input. And how many different devices did we buy? It's the types of devices.
We bought laptops, we bought Chromebooks, and we bought iPads, and those were purchased at the choice of the departments, and they told us, this is the device that's going to best fit the needs of our students in our content area. This is what we want our students to have, and so that's what we met those
everyone what they want. I'm just kind of wondering, was there like a priority? I know that at the elementary schools, several of them, you know, they've taken the classes with Miss Koval, and they said they love to do certain things, like I think seesaw was a favorite and stuff like that. But they only have like one set of iPads, and so they can't have them when they want them. And so I'm wondering, like, was that prioritized, you know, from the elementary to, or do we just go, okay, well, now it's the high school's turn, and whatever they want, whatever, you know what I'm saying? I know everyone wants something. I'm just wondering, you know, it was one of the things where it's like, the elementary is using them a whole lot more. Should we put a priority over there? That's what I'm wondering.
Well, there are classroom and school standards set based upon a certain number of devices, either based on a classroom ratio or a campus ratio of laptop or devices to students. In some situations, it's, you know, again, kind of the old days where you have three devices in every room. Or, well, some of them may say we don't want just 3 devices to sit in the room because they're not used all the time. Let's take 6 classrooms and put those on a cart. So now I do have access to all of them, or to at least enough to where we can pair up in the classrooms and do some things like that. So again, that non-tethered, classroom-based concept allows for some flexibility, but they're not going to always be available if all 4 of us want them at the same time. So there's some coordination that goes along with it.
This page, that it's just, this prioritization is kind of telling you this. So priority 1 does not include iPads, priority 2 and priority 3 do. So that same, you gotta go buy this big bite at a big high school, you gotta go take that on. Then if you wanna get to those things, that's the, it's either in that priority 2 and that
Yeah.
priority 3.
And I did ask my carpool, they said they use a mixture. I said, is there any, like, you use just one device? They're like, no, we use iPads, we use our own phones. And so I think that the professional development is definitely getting down, you know, now the students are starting to see more and more of that. But again, you know, I was going back to, you know, if we're gonna give you a device, do we actually have the bandwidth? And if that's being corrected, because that's what my kids say all the time, they're like, if the whole class gets on there to do research, the Wi-Fi is really slow, and there's just no point. They're just like, you might as well just hand me an encyclopedia.
And we are monitoring that, and we have made some of those changes at a particular campus, and we've seen much improvements, and we're working on
Okay.
doing that around the districts.
Okay.
That makes sense, Ed?
I'll reserve, I'll get with after. I just did a scan of Wi-Fi in here using 3 channels. I'm using 3 channels in this building, 1, 6, and 11, that's all you're using. We've got a lot more channels than that. That would spread it out too. If you're using only a certain number of channels in the building, you're gonna get interference, or you're gonna overload a certain channel as you're going through it. So you can spread your channels out, and that'll help some too.
Mr. Pivito just texted that to me.
With my mic. Didn't even use a device. I've been waiting all night to hear from Ed.
That's good but I think that's what Carly, a while ago, you said that the bandwidth is strong, it's the access points and things like that that we've gotta work on. We've got enough cable coming in, or fiber, or whatever.
We can get through the pipe, we just gotta be able to make that connection.
Right.
And you're gonna have certain areas where you're gonna have interference, you can't get through, you have to work your access points different ways. And, I mean, it's a never-ending battle. When you put up a filing cabinet, you can change your pattern.
Right.
Is there an issue, I'm sorry, is there an issue with the portables?
With the, I haven't heard specifically with
Okay,
portables.
I'm
There
just-
could be, there
yeah.
could be interference.
I'm gonna just do something, so how does it get to a port? Same way, do we have a access point now? Okay.
I was just curious, I don't have any, I just, we're talking about in the building itself, I was just curious about,
We run
not just
fiber-
at Clemens or, but at any
Right.
school.
We run fiber to the portables and we have access
Yeah,
points.
okay. And I know
nothing about any of this stuff. I just remember Stan Hall calling me on the phone saying, get off the internet. We don't have enough bandwidth. I was just trying to see who just got recruited at UT. That's all I was doing.
And now we do have an.
I'm just keeping it real.
So basically, what we wanted to, I guess, finish up with was to show the progression of, it is a plan, it's a long-term 10-year plan, and this snapshot of the one-pagers with the priorities, that's within a year, so to speak. So if this were to populate out this 10-year look, and if we broke that down by the prioritization of that, you can imagine the size that this could get to and to working on that. So we're just keeping it at that 1 year close glance look, so to speak, and then moving forward, and then moving forward, and then moving forward. So basically, as for our intents and purposes, this was more of the presentation, the methodology, and the background as to where we sit and where we are. So my part.
Bottom line, though, Mr. Prisky, you're looking at priority 1, 2, and 3 for a year, and those things just shift over to the next year. They're not done.
Well, and they get reevaluated
They
too.
get
'Cause like
reevaluated. That's what I was going to
something-
ask, though.
Yes.
When you shift things over, then you do look at them again as opposed to other things that were already on that yearly
Right.
list,
Right.
and how they fit with that. And how is it? Y'all have a discussion about what is there something that takes priority over these priorities? I mean, are you looking at the buildings being the first thing you look at, or?
Well, we look at feasibility and what we're actually dealing with. I mean, it could be anything. Let's just pick a campus, say we're gonna go and, okay, Old Rose Garden needs new Wi-Fi spots or access points. But we're not gonna do that because it's the Old Rose Garden, and so we'll evaluate by where, the why, and what makes it into this. Now, the EPP team that meets on those Wednesdays, when we're sitting there and we're talking about this whole methodology of change over the next year, there may be something in 2019 that now is gonna hopscotch all the way over here and become a priority. It just might happen. JD may come to us going, the HVAC at not Watts, I just replaced it, that example. Give me one. Slaughter, Dobie. It's gone. We're on life support, we need to do something. Well, it now just came over, now it's a priority. And it's gonna take, do we want HVAC or do we want technology? Yeah.
Right.
That's the hard discussions, because then that's when we sit back and have those frank
But
two-way.
y'all do it as a team,
Right.
transparent with everybody. I think Mr. Freeman touched on that the last time. That's, I think, the key, because then it's not, decisions aren't being made in pockets out there where then someone.
And that's what I'm, getting to, is that
We're in the room.
this is a discussion. If, God forbid, something were to happen, like we had the fire at Dobie several years ago, then this kind of just all
Breaks.
Yeah. Until you wait for insurance or something to kick in, because you've got to take care of that. So.
But the beauty of this is, emergencies happen and things change. We don't have to go back to zero and start your planning all over
Right.
from scratch, because you have this framework already laid out. So things move, something came over to the left and some things moved to the right, and okay, so now we're on to the next. We're not starting from scratch. So how, 4 years out on this, that's just your best estimate with what we know today. And if some new device comes along, or if some new way to make air conditioners last 25 years comes along, then everything gets recalibrated.
That's on a great segue there. It's aligned almost, I align it almost to like our demographers numbers. We're tight here, we're pretty good here, but then as you get out here, things can change. I mean, glass went through the roof this past year, because of the availability of the right sand for the process. Concrete can go, we get a storm in the Gulf, it wipes out something. I mean, all that comes into play. Anything and everything can happen here. We may have a major technological advancement in the next 10 months that shake up everything on the technology side. You know, football may not need equipment anymore. I'm just, you never know. I'm just saying. Sorry, Scott, you can wait to show you. But to that effect, yes, we're tight on that first year, and then as it goes out there, it's a little more, not as exact.
So for this whole, I keep seeing end of useful life, so for technology, transportation, maintenance of facilities, fine arts, everybody has, in their own department probably has a master list of definition of end of useful life. You know what I'm saying? So for example, computers, how long do they usually, what are we talking, useful life of a computer?
So we go by the Texas DIR standards, and they say a laptop, 3 to 4 years, and a desktop, 4 to 5 years. And what you're seeing for Clemens is way past that.
Would it be helpful, Mr. Westbrook, since that is mentioned many times in here, to do, there's some white space at the bottom of these to add end-of-life standard, just those,
Be helpful.
not down in a lot of detail, but just those things you just kind of spouted off for the other ones. How long does an air conditioner, what's end-of-life considered now? We can put those down.
Fleet vehicles, band instruments, how long do band instruments? Who's a band?
It varies, he says somewhere in there, it varies depending on whether it's used in marching band or in concert band, and also the different types of instruments. Some can last 20, 25 years, some marching band instruments are gonna last 5 years, 6 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just depending on their use. I have a chart.
We don't want the chart to be part of this. However, a summary like you just gave though, as an end-of-life standard, an overview of end-of-life standard, I think would be good. It's funny, I never thought about it until you just said it, that makes sense. Marching takes a licking. Yeah, that makes sense. They're out of the room and getting hauled around every time.
So every
That
department,
sounds good. We can add that, because they exist, right? You have the end-of-life. It's just a matter of populating them on here.
so then oh, that's bad language. You gathered in a room, and based upon end of life and academic benefit, you determine that's how you came up with this list, academic.
And the number of students that we project that we have in any one of these years. So that's kind of laid out on this also, this assumption of our growth.
So nobody, technology, maintenance.
I think also what we're trying to mainly get at too is to make sure, like I remember the textbook adoption, especially the math one. I went and looked at all those textbooks, gave parent input on that. I know my kids use those textbooks, and I think if we were to do it all over again, we would go, wow, we don't know that we'd make that decision again, to do consumable textbooks, because the kids don't want to carry them back and forth. And then you know what I'm saying? You just want to make sure you get it right. And I think it's the same thing with everything we're talking about here. We want to make sure that, to me, we're looking at the student and what they're using, and the teacher saying, this is what I want, and the band director saying, this is the instrument I want replaced, instead of us going, well, that one's been sitting on the shelf 10 years, that's the one we're gonna replace. Do you see what I'm saying? I just think back to the whole math textbook thing and go, what if we had looked at that from the kid perspective of having to carry this huge textbook back and forth, would we have purchased consumables? And I think that's just kind of where I'm going with this.
Yeah, that has been in a state of flux and will be for the next few years. I think there's a point coming where that's not a question anymore, but we're not quite there yet. And the state's not quite there yet. They don't know exactly what they want to.
Well, I think I'm
provide.
getting that with everything though, like when we talk about the whole technology, when we talk about the band stuff, are we looking at what the teachers want, what the students are using? I did like with the whole devices, one of my kids, yes, he does use a phone for a formative quiz every single day, and I think that's great,
So generally, there is, here's the thing that makes that complicated. So generally, yes, there is input. The thing is, if you line up 1,000 teachers, you're gonna get 500 that want it one way and 500 that want it the other way. So there has to be some leadership and discernment in that but we do have to do it with our ear to the front line. That's a good point. we have to just keep asking ourselves these questions, constantly asking ourselves questions. That's really the bottom line, not get comfortable. That's kind of the purpose of the EPP meetings. Are we sure that everything on this list is the best? Because we've got to take a number to the board eventually. And I appreciate all this, but really this is, I think, they've had this, but it's been in clicks and clicks and clicks on spreadsheets. So I'm just gonna say kudos for kind of getting a big picture snapshot where we can just look at where these things are projected to be spent. And that's a good point, that we gotta make sure it's right. Those are big, big numbers. As we continue to grow, the cost of doing business goes up every year. That's what this represents. We've kind of just attacked this stuff, but we haven't really ever charted it out. Now it's charted out. And these numbers have been here the last 10 years, by the way. These needs, let me back up. These needs represented by these numbers have been here. It's just kind of for the first time we're laying it out where everybody can see it all at once. And that is a little sobering and that is a little scary. I get it. But I would rather be able to see it and deal with it and have these conversations than just kind of go at squeaky wheel last month of the year, close out the budget. Who's come over here to my office the most and, bend my ear? Do I get it to them or do I not? Because they've been over here bending my ear. This is trying to take a more scientific approach to it.
What you hope is that, things get moved off the page and into fruition, actually being done. Because I've told the story, when I first got here, the person that was in charge of the maintenance, he showed me what they did with maintenance requests. Got the cylinder file and threw them in there. And that's what I don't, this helps us keep, to not do that, because it's on the page, then it's gonna be in your mind, and it's at least part of the discussion. The other thing is, costs are gonna go up no matter what our student numbers do.
Yeah,
That's a fact, It's the value of the dollar, and it's just, value today is much better than it's gonna be a year from now, and that's just economics 101, so. It's good to have it on paper. It's good that you're talking about every week, and that you do have the ground level folks who are actually needing this stuff and using this stuff involved in the conversation as well.
So that's kind of where we are at this point. Is that 4 budget workshops or 5? 4? Can't remember.
Can I bring up something that's not on this subject here, but it's that I had texted Dr. Gibson about it. I had gotten communication from some teachers who have been here for 20, 25 years, and they were curious about salaries this year, anything, and they contacted me and asked me about, the salary thing, in particular with the $500 one-time deal. And I said, well, we're looking at that. It's probably going to be difficult to do right now. But I said, there's not been any firm decision made as far as I know. And they said, well, they contacted payroll, and payroll told them, no, it's not going to happen. So I know Dr. Gibson, made sure that those tough questions, that list of tough questions got out to the campuses, and so the staff could see those things.
Yeah, and and I'm gonna tie this into the budget workshop. We are talking about budget, so that's part of the budget. The very slim part of that, and I think you all you've trained payroll to make sure that they're just getting the exact verbiage, is that right, of my communication now, and so after last week. So someone can interpret very slim any way.
Yeah, and I tried to do that without just saying, no, it's not gonna happen, because I don't know that it's not gonna happen. I just know that it's very difficult to do. But And my other point is this, you know, and I had asked, I wasn't at the October budget meeting, but I have a little bit of a problem with board members going out of state for a conference, spending district money. And I've said this before, this is not new, but I have a little bit of an issue with board members going out of state to a conference that, you know, we have to get course credit, we have to get educational credit every year. We do that through our state organization. We don't get that through the national organization. So I don't know I guess I could be told, well, you know, we're gonna be doing things, we're gonna be getting in and doing workshops and things like that, and that's all well and good. But when we're looking at not being able to give our staff a salary increase of any kind at all, until we make that decision, I don't think a board member needs to be going out of state to any conference. That's just my personal opinion. And if we do have board members going out of state for a conference and we don't, or not able to give our teachers any salary increase at all, then I have a problem with that. And I just want to lay those cards on the table right now. I'd ask Robert to read something for that October one. I know, but I'm just saying, I'm going to reiterate that right now. Myself, I just have an issue with that. And if, you know, we've talked about our budget. When we decided to spend that $1.65 million, whatever it was we did before, on the different things Wayne had alluded to earlier, you know, we were talking about, well, you know, we're going to be able to make tough decisions down the road. I remember Robert asking that question. Well, this is not a tough decision. This should be very easy. Look yourself in the face, board member, say, you know, I don't need to go to that thing. I can stay home, save the district a few dollars. Those dollars gonna amount to much? Probably not. I don't care about that. It's the perception. I hear a lot about transparency and perception and to what cost. This is one of those things I think about.
I think as a whole, these budget workshops have been awesome though. I think that when a lot of the stakeholders ask us, you know, how are you being frugal with our money? How are you know, what are we doing to save money? I think now we have documents that we can say here, this is, and I think it's on video for everyone to see. Yeah. And so I really do believe as far as being transparent, we have been very transparent. And I think everyone has done a fantastic job of putting together a lot of this information. I know it took a long time.
Well, but it was good for us, and I don't think we really did anything that wasn't helpful for us as well. So everything we built as a tool for the board to see is a good tool for us to look at it also. So we didn't, I can't think of one thing we did that, oh, that's only for the board. I mean, we look at all these tools now, and we will, for example, incorporate the top 10. I don't think we'll do it again in the spring because we just did it. We might give a quick update if anything's changed, but we'll make that our annual operating procedure to run through those top 10 when we kick the budget off, you know, every spring. Because it's just a good tool.
It's the state of the state.
That's the state of where we are.
And we've had a lot of dialogue with other business managers, I mean, both in 13 and 20, and they were real interested in that, and thought it was a real good foundation to kick off their budget process, so you can take credit for that.
And
Bill Niebuhr, not Bill,
Yeah.
Bill Rutherford.
No, I mean, but
Oh, yes.
And now that we've had the opportunity to kind of run through this with the explanation and all, what I would anticipate if you all wanna give a, you know, monthly or, I don't know, maybe quarterly EPP update and the board update now that this groundwork's kind of been laid, you know, because those numbers change because decisions are made. If y'all can summarize some of the high-level changes that have occurred, why, and then, so that's gonna change the numbers, so that you don't see it cold at a board meeting and go, wait a minute, I thought my file from November the 29th, that number was 877, now it's something else. Well, we learned something. We'll make sure to do that as well. You'll see it again on a regular basis, I guess.
What's left? We're good? That's it?
A review of the future workshops.
Dr. Petrisky, you have any, are we at the end?
Yes.
You have any comments? You're the only public member.
Excellent point by Ms. Siebert. I've heard the same thing as far as technology. If everybody uses it seem more like a top-down level at that point. Technology, Ms. Griesbach, excellent point also on the expenditures. I looked at the 2017, 2018 check register. Every page of that check register, the technology was all over the map. Descriptors for that would say essentially technology related. It does not tell the taxpayer, the community, is it software, is it hardware, or devices, or which campuses they're designated. It just takes 3 words. You can say technology related. You can say Clemens campus, Steele campus, student devices. That's just very nebulous. When I worked in the school districts and I was responsible for technology in our departments, I made sure it did a very thorough needs assessment before I went to any vendor to see which vendor could provide the best bang for our buck. It also helped the district hold those vendors feet to the fire as far as it came to accountability. On this one, I saw vendors every which way. It just didn't make any sense. Just doing the math, it's a lot of expenditures for not being clear on what exactly are you doing. It's a lot of money going out, and I remember when technology went before the board to ask for, I believe it was 1.5 million to be set aside. Board members asked for specifics, and the specifics were very slow in coming. Actually, they weren't there. It's like, let's get the 1.5 million and then we'll decide on the expenditures afterwards. Needs assessment should always come first, so you don't have that expenditures problem. Again, anybody can look at that check register, and you see exactly what I'm talking about. It's all over the map. Nothing's consistent.
Could that be a situation of too many teachers having too much say and too much
Actually,
flexibility?
that's not enough. If you did, you'd have more consistency in what was needed.
I have to disagree with you there.
Well, you can do so, sir, but
If
the
we-
reality, again, like
If
what
we
Mr.
bought
Ford
one,
brought up.
if we bought one system and one software and sent it down, everybody'd have the same thing, and all that check register would read the same.
Not necessarily. We also, the issue with what Mr. Bieber brought up, perception of visual. Why has all this money been spent here or not? And again, the way the staff was told about one-time payment or any kind of staff salary increase not being given, the way it was addressed, kind of like that item was wedged in the middle of a memo between 2 other different topics, so it was not straightforward. But then it comes back again to looking at the expenditures of 2017, 2018. We're spending money on 3 different, why does the school district need 3 different law firms? What's the deal with that? A lot of money going to that.
Just out of curiosity,
Look at the
does having 3 different law firms
expenditures.
add any expense to a district?
No, so there's.
If you use one law firm instead of the other firm, you're paying that firm, it doesn't mean you're paying 3 attorneys for the same work.
Correct. In fact, they're always different work.
And in fact, it actually helps them compete against each other to probably do a better job and keep costs down, correct?
We view it that way. And that's why we like to approve lists, because they know that at any time we could use any one of them for any particular job, and it keeps costs down.
Yes.
Well, the bottom line is, the school board should have a different law firm than the administration.
Correct.
And then a lot of law firms don't deal with special education law.
Correct.
So special education law is a total separate entity where you have to find a law firm that has someone that will do special education law. And I think Gary's right. I said, no matter how many law firms you have, the amount of money is probably going to be about be the same.
Correct, and I'm gonna go ahead and let Paige share an interesting fact, because we, attorney's fees is related to special education, and it makes sense because we're growing in that population as a total, a percent of the total. And so, these are rough numbers, but we're looking at this year's Peens number snapshot compared to last year, and we found this little interesting nugget of information.
We did, before I share that, I will say, never, since we have experienced a 25-plus increase in students since the Thanksgiving break, which,
Right.
that is very odd. That doesn't usually happen, so we don't know what's going on there. Maybe they wanted to come to the Christmas party or whatever, but the fact that Dr. Gibson is referring to is, from the snapshot date to the snapshot date, from last year to this year, we have grown roughly, I mean, this is what we're looking at, 163 total students, which is about 1% growth in the district. We've also grown 158 special education students. Now, those don't equate to the same students because you're going in 20, out 25, in 2,500. But,
Net,
net.
at the end of the day.
Yeah, but.
70, what is that, 90% of our student growth was students with special education.
10%
So we're-
growth in that
And
population.
I think if you compare us with our cohort districts, you're gonna find that we spend less than they do in school. And
Yeah, so that may be true. The point with that is that right now, we're known as doing well with special education, and so a lot of our growth, our parents coming with special education students. I think that's what we're saying with that.
And so we'll go back.
Well,
and
they
start to
always
look at
have,
those.
because we've had programs that other districts just will not have because of the expense. And with our military families, we do pick up quite a few of those students from those military families.
So we will not have a budget workshop in January. It shows, if y'all are okay with that. And not in February, and then we'll actually just start working the budget parameter memo into the regular meetings. And then at any time, if a trustee says, you know what, I wanna dig deeper, I wanna go back, we can just call a workshop and dig in on any topic at any time.
You were finished, Dr. Petrisky? More or less?
Essentially it, but like Mr. Pivot said, perception is reality. And major disappointment from staff on how the news was issued. Anyway, Mr. Pivot's points were well taken.
When's the next board meeting? 18th?
Yes.
18th. There's nothing else? You're pretty quiet. Anything, Finley, you're quiet?
He's already.
Gary?
Taking all that.
You good? David said his piece, more or less. We're adjourned. It's at 6:58.
Hey, Brewski,